Welcome to datascience.show, the podcast where data science meets executive leadership. We talk with top AI and analytics thought leaders about turning data into real business impact. If you're a C-level leader or data expert shaping the future, you're in the right place.
Let me start with a short story, familiar if you run AI programs. A retail chain rolled out a promotion model that increased click-through and short-term sales. The data team celebrated the metric spike. Procurement signed a vendor contract renewal. Product framed it as a success. And 3 months later, churn rose sharply because the promotion targeted marginal customers with high return rates. The business saw no net revenue lift. The model had optimized for the wrong signal. Everyone was rewarded, and the company paid the price. That's the executive stake. Not whether models are accurate, but whether incentives steer everyone towards durable business value or towards short-lived, visible wins that create long-term costs. Today, I want to give you a compact playbook, practical, decision-first, so in 30 to 90 days, you can audit your incentives, change how funding flows, rewire metrics, and align career signals so pilots turn into sustained value. No vendor cheerleading, no technical deep dives, just strategy before technology. How leaders actually get from models to measurable outcomes. Before the playbook, a quick diagnosis. Across finance, retail, healthcare, and B2B SaaS, I see the same pattern. Teams are judged by the closest, cleanest signal, model lift, A/B delta, or time to delivery, while downstream owners absorb costs and customer impacts. Procurement often structures deals around one-time uplift commitments. HR rewards feature delivery rather than product outcomes. And that misalignment is why so many initiatives at scale fail. I've seen this as a practitioner and as an advisor. The technical work is often fine, but the reward system is not. Let's walk through 3 incentive levers you can use right away: funding cadence, metrics architecture, and career/accountability design. These are the real control knobs that change behavior across stakeholders. First, funding cadence. How you time money signals what you want. If funding is annual and tied to launch milestones, you'll get big pushes for demos and pilots, but not the sustained iteration that lowers cost to serve or drives lifetime value. My recommendation? Create a staged funding model. Stage 1 is incubation funding, small, rapid experiments to validate causal signals. Stage 2 is transition funding, conditional commitments tied to multi-horizon KPIs. Stage 3 is sustaining funding, recurring budget only after outcomes persist across multiple cohorts and time windows. Make procurement and finance owners sign on to these stages. Make rollback triggers explicit. Funding that protects and then tests rather than pumps and prays changes behavior quickly. Second, metrics architecture. This is where most things go wrong because teams measure what's easy, not what matters. Pick metrics that resist gaming. Multi-horizon measures, cohort-based lifetime value, and true cost to serve. Example, instead of celebrating a 5% immediate uplift in basket size, measure 3 things together. First order uplift, 90-day retention change for the affected cohort, and incremental return cost per order. Composite metrics are your friend, a weighted score that blends short-term lift with medium-term retention and cost delta. That makes it harder to chase vanity spikes and forces trade-offs into the open. Third, career and accountability design. Who gets promoted for building models? Who for delivering persistent business outcomes? Clarify RACI for outcomes, not outputs. Make promotion signals track outcome ownership. Product leaders and business owners must have skin in the game. Their scorecards should include the composite KPIs, not just feature delivery. For data teams, reward contributions that reduce downstream operational burden or improve model maintainability, not just papers or experimental uplift. And create clear accountability paths. If a model decision increases cost to serve, that must show up in the responsible organization's performance review and budget planning. Now, some anonymized case examples and anti-patterns you can recognize quickly. One large bank paid vendors for model uplift during onboarding. The vendor optimized acceptance by relaxing rules, increasing short-term activation, but default incidents climbed and collections costs rose. Result, the bank reset underwriting aggressively and shelved the program. The fix would have been cohort-based default rates and a chargeback on acquisition costs tied to 180-day delinquency. Another example, a logistics company rewarded data scientists for reducing predicted delivery time variance. The team gamed the label by excluding long-tail, high-variance routes from evaluation, improving the metric, but breaking broader routing resilience. The anti-pattern is optimizing narrow signals without governance windows to detect distributional shifts. From those patterns, I distilled a decision rubric to pick KPIs that are hard to game. Step 1. Define the business outcome: revenue, retention, cost, or risk. Step 2. Pick at most 3 linked metrics across horizons: immediate, 0 to 30 days, medium, 30 to 180 days, and long, 180 plus days. Step 3. Prefer cohort-based measurements and incremental lift relative to a control group. Step 4. Add a cost to serve or operational risk overlay. And Step 5. Set explicit review gates, quarterly at minimum, to detect gaming and regressions. Here are sample KPI translations you can drop into conversations. For finance, use cohort LTV delta and marketing spend incremental ROI. For product, use active user retention for targeted cohorts and average revenue per user, ARPU, after 90 days. For data, use model decay rate and average remediation effort per incident. Operationalizing this means changing contracts and governance. Negotiation language: tie vendor payments to multi-stage outcomes, an initial delivery fee followed by outcome-based tranches payable after cohort performance windows. Include rollback clauses and a requirement for transparent evaluation. Share model decisions, evaluation cohorts, and feature stability metrics. Add governance gates, a steering committee that includes finance, product, HR, and legal that signs off at each stage. For procurement, insist on service-level KPIs that measure durable outcomes, not just delivery milestones. For legal, embed data access and model audit rights. These are practical protections, not red tape if they stop you funding short-term harm.
Okay, a prioritized 30-90-day audit you can run with your leadership team. Day 0 through 30. Map active AI initiatives, owners, and current KPIs. Identify the top 5 projects by budget and risk. Day 30 through 60. Apply the 3-lever checklist. Adjust funding stage definitions for those projects. Switch KPIs to cohort-based or composite measures for at least 2 projects. And add explicit review windows. Day 60 through 90. Renegotiate at least 1 vendor contract to add outcome tranches. Update role scorecards for product and finance to include 1 outcome metric, and run a tabletop to test rollback and remediation steps. This is a small set of actions that creates momentum and demonstrates the approach quickly.
A few closing principles to live by. 1. Fewer composite metrics beat many fragmented targets. 2. Always measure cohorts over time. Short-term lift without a medium-term check is a red flag. 3. Fund in stages and don't confuse launch with success. 4. Make career signals reflect outcome ownership, not engineering heroics alone. If you do those 4 things, you change the incentives landscape. And that's how pilots become products that pay the bills. Before we close, a couple of negotiation phrases you can use in procurement conversations. Say this: we can commit to an initial implementation fee, but outcome tranches will be tied to cohort LTV and 90-180-day retention for the affected population. We require transparent cohort reporting and a rollback clause if key operating metrics regress. Or this for HR conversations: promotion criteria for product and analytics will include at least 1 validated outcome metric tied to business KPIs, and that will be part of the annual review. Short, firm, and non-technical. Executives understand the language of funding and accountability. 3 quick executive actions to leave you with. 1. Run the 30-90-day audit in the next 4 weeks and bring finance and HR into the first steering meeting. 2. Pick 2 live projects and switch their KPIs to cohort-based composite measures. 3. Update 1 vendor contract to add outcome tranches and audit rights. Do those 3, and you'll move the needle from pilots that look good on paper to systems that actually produce measurable value. If you want a template and the checklists I mentioned, download the Executive Incentives Playbook at datascience.show/incentives. It includes the sample KPI translations for finance, product, and data, negotiation language you can copy into contracts, and a rubric you can apply immediately. Subscribe to the show if you found this useful, and share this episode with a colleague who owns procurement or HR. Those are the people you need in the room. That's the difference between models and value.
Thanks for listening to datascience.show. If you found value in this episode, subscribe, share it with your network, and join us next time as we explore how data science drives smarter decisions and better business outcomes.